Welcome to the Family Remission Podcast. I'm Ashley Tilford. Today we're going to be talking about who God says your children are before the world does. And I think it is super important for parents who are the sole disciple makers of their children to go to the Father and seek the Lord about his identity, his purpose, how he has designed them, and then foster that in your children. And I think that the world has a different perspective on raising our children is to mold them and shape them into who we think that they should be and then release them out into the world to say, go find yourself. And this is the opposite of what God has called us to do as parents. That we are the sole disciple makers of our children. We are to teach them, we are to train them, we are to help instill in them the identity that God has for them so that when they go out into the world, they already know who they are. They already understand their calling and they are ready and equipped to go forth in their purpose. So, what does that look like? How do we instill that in our kids? How do we teach and train them when sometimes we may not even know what our identity is ourselves? So, the first part is to pray about it. Who does God say that your kids are? And when we pray about it and we seek the Lord on this to understand his design for our kids, then we can partner with him in how he's designed them to teach them and train them to hear his voice, to understand him, his character, and to grow in their identity. And so when my kids were really little, my husband and I did this for all three of them. I think at the time they were 5, 3, and 1, maybe 2, 4, and 6. But we sought the Lord on his name. Who does he call them? What does he say about them? What is his design for them? So we sought the Lord on that, and he gave us a Bible verse for each kid. For our oldest, it was about being salt and light. His identity statement for her was salt and light. And that really encompassed her personality, who she was, that she just drew people to her. She was very adamant about following the rules and calling people out when they weren't, and so it just encompassed her personality greatly. And so we started praying into that for her. And it wasn't long after that we started blessing her with this identity of salt and light that God started speaking to her at 5, 6 years old about her calling to be a missionary, that she felt called to be a missionary and so we could partner with her for that as she's grown. So now it's been 10 years since that. She is in high school now. And so we know that she's not necessarily going to go down the traditional college career path, but that she is looking at different options for how she can become a missionary when she turns 18. And so by partnering with the Lord, for her identity, we are able to speak that into her, bless her, partner with her in her passions and the things that God has called her to do instead of fighting against that. The other side of that is about her redemptive gift. So we prayed a couple of years ago about her redemptive gift. What is her redemptive design that God has given her? And so we all felt that her redemptive gift was giver. And so this partners with being a missionary beautifully because givers are gifted with being able to give generationally. So being a missionary is about raising up a church in a specific place, raising and making disciples in specific places so that they can change the trajectory generationally. And so this fits her personality, it fits her design, it fits what she feels called to do. And so, as her parents, we are blessing her in those ways. And we remind her, well, givers have trouble with jealousy and with ownership. They think that everything that is theirs. And so we have to help partner with her for stewardship. And this is a great example. She was going on a mission trip with her school and it cost $250 to go on this mission trip. Now, we could pay that $250 and it wasn't a problem, but she felt led to pay $100 of her own money. And so we supported her in that. And then I said, well, you know, but she was a little hesitant about spending $100 of her own money. And I said, well, one of the things that missionaries must learn to do is raise their own funds. And so you could very easily pay $100 from your own pocket, but is God asking you to partner with Him to ask people to support you in this mission? So she prayed about it and she felt yes. And so she asked her grandparents. She asked some of the couples from church. She asked some people from school. And she ended up raising all $100 that she felt led that she was supposed to pay. And so this is one of those ways that we have been able to, one, identify the calling of God on her life, identify her identity, and partner with her and God to help support her in the calling that God has on her life. Because in a couple of years, when she goes to, we'll say, missionary school, she's going to learn some of these skills from the missionary perspective. But right now, we can do it to support her to say, look, we see this calling on your life, that we see the purpose and your identity that He wants to use you to give generationally and to raise disciples. And so, how can we partner with Him? How can we partner with you to help you in that calling? And so this is countercultural because the world tells us that we are to teach and train our kids how to be good members of society. And while, yes, that is important, it is not the only thing that we are called to do as parents. Raising them to have a kingdom society mindset is of the utmost importance. And so by teaching and training our kids and pressing into the Lord about who He has called them to and how they can partner with Him to raise them in the kingdom society mindset is how we help our children know who God has called them to be instead of who the world tells them to be. Right now, identity is a hot topic button. People are all about gender identity and trans identity and who am I? I don't know. And so it is important for us as parents to help instill in our kids their identity from their father, the one who created them in their mother's womb for a plan and purpose, a masterpiece with a particular set of good works that He has prepared for them to do from long ago. If we have this mindset, then why are we not going to the Father to say, okay, you've designed my kid. They're much different than me. Because this is where a lot of the behavioral differences come from and the kind of the friction that we can have in our parenting with our kids is because we do and think and say things a lot differently than they do. Why? Because they're designed different. They're designed much different. And so we go to the Father and we say, okay, how did you design them? How were they created? And what is the purpose that you have for their life? And how can I partner with you to help support them in that? Then we can give them a much better foundation to go out into the world with than we were probably even given ourselves as kids. So, if you want to learn more about how to instill identity in your kids, where do you start? What does that look like? I have an identity course called Kingdom Kids that's available on my website where it walks you through some just easy 3 steps. It's $7, easy 3 steps, and it goes into greater detail about redemptive gifts, ministry gifts, and spirit gifts to help you identify your kids' giftings and walking you through that. So if you want to check that out, that's available on my website. If you've never heard of the redemptive gifts before, I have a free redemptive gifts quiz for you to take for your kids. It kind of dips your toe into the redemptive gifts a little bit to learn more about what your redemptive gift might be because the world loves to tell you who you might be through all of these different types of personality quizzes. But what if God has given us a personality test right in the Bible? It's from Romans 12. It talks about the 7 gifts that God has given each of us. So each of us are designed by God to do something for a redemptive purpose, to bring about His redemption here on earth. What does that look like? How can we partner with him to bring about his redemption? And when you understand the redemptive gifts are how you relate to your father, then that opens up this whole new world for understanding your design and how God designed you and what he designed you for, so that you can partner with him to fulfill his redemptive purpose here on earth as it is in heaven. So if you want to check that out, I have more resources available on my website at ashleytilford.com.